Your biggest problem isn't lack of money, lack of education, or lack of opportunity. Your biggest problem is that you've been trained to be weak. You've been conditioned to wait for permission, to seek approval, to avoid risk at all costs. You've been taught that failure is bad, that struggle is something to avoid, that comfort is the goal. But every successful person knows a secret that weak people refuse to accept. Strength comes from making hard decisions when you don't feel ready. The reason most people never succeed isn't because they lack ability. It's because they lack the courage to make one uncomfortable decision that would change everything. They'd rather stay comfortable and miserable than become uncomfortable and successful. Which category do you fall into? There's something that will change your life forever, and I'm about to share it with you. Every single person who walks this earth faces a moment when they stand at a crossroads. One path stretches ahead, leading to more of the same old routine, more mediocrity, more settling for whatever life hands them. The other path beckons with promise, leading to everything they've ever dreamed of achieving. The difference between these two paths isn't luck, isn't talent, isn't even opportunity knocking at your door. The difference comes down to one single decision. Today I want to share with you the most important truth I've discovered in my years of studying success and human potential. Everything in your life changes when you make one real decision. Not tomorrow when you feel more ready, not next week when you have more time, not when all the conditions line up perfectly in your favor. Right now, today, this very moment you're experiencing, the power lies in understanding that this moment, right here and right now, is when your transformation begins. You don't need permission from anyone else. You don't need a better education, more money in the bank, or ideal circumstances. You need one thing, the willingness to decide that your old life ends today and your new life begins immediately. Most people live their entire lives without ever making this decision. They wish, they hope, they dream, but they never decide. They say things like, I wish I had more money. I hope things get better. I dream of a different life. But wishing isn't deciding. Hoping isn't deciding. Dreaming isn't deciding. Deciding is when you draw a line in the sand and say, this is it. This is where my old life ends and my new life begins. Deciding is when you burn the bridges behind you so you can't go back to your old ways. Deciding is when you make a commitment so strong that failure is not an option. I remember the day I made my decision. I was 25 years old, broke, and working a job that was going nowhere. I had pennies in my pocket and big dreams in my heart, but dreams without decision are just fantasies. That day I looked at myself in the mirror and said, Jim, you can keep living like this, or you can decide to change. But if you're going to change, you better decide right now. That decision changed everything. Not because the world suddenly became easier, not because opportunities fell from the sky, but because I became different. When you make a real decision, when you truly commit, something inside you shifts. You start seeing possibilities instead of problems. You start taking action instead of making excuses. The difference between successful people and unsuccessful people isn't talent, it isn't luck, it isn't even hard work, although that's part of it. The difference is that successful people make decisions and unsuccessful people make wishes. Successful people decide what they want and then do whatever it takes to get it. Unsuccessful people wish things were different. When you make a decision, really make a decision, you create momentum. That momentum carries you through the tough times. It carries you through the moments when you want to quit. It carries you through the criticism from people who don't understand your vision. Decision creates power, and power creates results. But here's what most people don't understand about decision making. A real decision isn't something you make once and forget about. A real decision is something you make over and over again every single day. You decide when you wake up in the morning. You decide when you're faced with temptation. You decide when things get difficult. You decide when people try to talk you out of your dreams. The reason most people fail isn't because they never make a decision. It's because they make a decision and then unmake it the first time things get tough. They decide to lose weight, but they unmake that decision when they see a piece of chocolate cake. They decide to save money, but they unmake that decision when they see something they want to buy. They decide to build a business, but they unmake that decision when they face their first rejection. Real decision making is about commitment. It's about saying, I will do this no matter what. It's about understanding that there will be obstacles, there will be setbacks, there will be people who doubt you, but you will keep going anyway because you have decided. I've watched thousands of people over the years, and I can tell you the exact moment when someone's life changes. It's not when they learn a new skill, it's not when they get a lucky break, it's when they make a decision that they refuse to change. That decision becomes their anchor, their North Star, their reason for getting up every morning. Success starts with a single decision, but that decision must be followed by action. Decision without action is just another wish. But when you combine decision with action, magic happens. When you decide what you want and then take consistent action toward that goal, the universe conspires to help you achieve it. The successful person decides to read books while others watch television. The successful person decides to invest money while others spend it. The successful person decides to learn new skills while others make excuses. The successful person decides to take risks while others play it safe. Every great achievement in human history started with someone making a decision. Someone decided to build a business. Someone decided to write a book. Someone decided to invent something new. Someone decided to push past their fears and chase their dreams. Your current situation is not your final destination. Where you are right now is simply the result of the decisions you've made up to this point. If you don't like where you are, you can change it. But change requires a decision. Change requires you to take full responsibility for your life and your results. Part 2, taking responsibility for your life. Now let me tell you something that might be hard to hear, but it's the truth you need to understand if you want to change your life. You are where you are because of you. Not because of your parents, not because of your education, not because of the economy, not because of your boss, not because of the government. You are where you are because of the decisions you have made and the actions you have taken. This isn't about blame. This isn't about making you feel bad. This is about giving you power. Because when you take responsibility for where you are, you also take the power to change where you're going. Most people spend their entire lives playing the victim. They blame their childhood, they blame their circumstances, they blame other people. They say things like, I can't succeed because I didn't have the right opportunities, or I can't get ahead because the system is rigged, or I can't change because this is just how I am. But here's what I've learned after years of studying successful people. The most successful people in the world often come from the most difficult circumstances. They didn't have advantages, they had disadvantages. They didn't have help, they had obstacles. But they refused to let their circumstances define their future. I want you to do something right now. I want you to look in the mirror, not literally, but mentally. Look at your life honestly. Look at your bank account, your relationships, your health, your career. Whatever you see there, I want you to say these words. I am responsible for this. If you don't like your bank account, say, I am responsible for this. If you don't like your job, say, I am responsible for this. If you don't like your relationships, say, I am responsible for this. This isn't about punishment. This is about taking back your power. When you blame other people or circumstances for your problems, you give away your power to change those problems. When you take responsibility, you take back the power to create solutions. I remember talking to a man who complained about his financial situation. He told me all the reasons why he couldn't get ahead. His boss didn't appreciate him. The economy was bad. He didn't have the right connections. He went on and on with his list of excuses. Finally, I stopped him and said, let me ask you something. How many books have you read in the last year about money and success? He looked at me like I was crazy. Books? I don't have time to read books. I'm too busy working. How many hours do you spend watching television each week? I asked. Well, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 hours. So you have 20 or 30 hours to watch television. but you don't have 1 hour to read a book that could change your financial future, that's when it hit him. He wasn't poor because of his circumstances. He was poor because of his choices. He was choosing entertainment over education. He was choosing to be a victim instead of taking responsibility for his results. The moment you stop making excuses and start taking responsibility, your life begins to change. Instead of spending your energy complaining about what's wrong, you start spending your energy figuring out how to make things right. Personal responsibility is the foundation of all success. You cannot build a successful life on a foundation of excuses and blame. You can only build a successful life on a foundation of personal responsibility and commitment to growth. Here's what taking responsibility looks like in practical terms. If you're overweight, you stop blaming genetics and start taking responsibility for your eating and exercise habits. If you're broke, you stop blaming the economy and start taking responsibility for your financial education and spending habits. If you're unhappy in your relationships, you stop blaming the other person and start taking responsibility for your own behavior and communication. This doesn't mean that other people never do anything wrong. It doesn't mean that circumstances never create challenges. But it means that you focus on what you can control instead of what you can't control. You focus on your response instead of the situation. Successful people understand this principle. They understand that life is not about what happens to you. Life is about how you respond to what happens to you. You cannot control the weather, but you can control whether you carry an umbrella. You cannot control other people's behavior, but you can control your own behavior. When you take responsibility for your life, you stop being a victim and start being a victor. You stop waiting for things to change and start changing things. You stop hoping for a better future and start creating a better future. The difference between people who succeed and people who fail is not in their circumstances, it's in their response to their circumstances. Two people can face the same challenge. One person will use it as an excuse to quit. The other person will use it as a reason to get stronger. I've seen people overcome incredible obstacles because they refuse to let those obstacles define them. I've seen people with every advantage fail because they refuse to take responsibility for their actions. Your circumstances don't determine your future. Your decisions determine your future. Taking responsibility also means taking responsibility for your continuous growth and development. You are responsible for your education. You are responsible for your skills. You are responsible for your knowledge. You are responsible for your personal development. Nobody else is going to make you successful. Nobody else is going to solve your problem. Nobody else is going to create your future. That's your job. That's your responsibility. And that's also your opportunity. When you fully embrace personal responsibility, you realize that you have more power than you ever imagined. You have the power to change your thoughts, your habits, your actions, and your results. You have the power to create the life you want instead of settling for the life you have. Part 3, the disciplines of success. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Failure is nothing more than a few errors in judgment repeated every day. The difference between success and failure isn't dramatic. It's subtle. It's in the small choices you make every single day. Most people think success requires some dramatic action, some huge breakthrough, some lucky break. But that's not how success works. Success is built day by day, choice by choice, habit by habit. Success is the result of doing the right things consistently over time. Let me give you an example. The difference between being healthy and being sick isn't usually one big thing. It's a series of small things. The healthy person chooses to eat an apple instead of a candy bar. They choose to take the stairs instead of the elevator. They choose to go to bed early instead of staying up late. Each individual choice seems small and insignificant. But over time, these small choices compound into big results. The same principle applies to every area of life. The wealthy person chooses to save money instead of spending it. They choose to invest instead of consume. They choose to learn instead of being entertained. Each choice seems small, but over time, these choices create wealth. The successful person chooses to read books instead of watching television. They choose to work on their goals instead of making excuses. They choose to associate with positive people instead of negative people. Each choice seems small, but over time, these choices create success. Here's the problem. The things that are easy to do are also easy not to do. It's easy to eat an apple, but it's also easy to eat a candy bar. It's easy to read a book, but it's also easy to watch television. It's easy to save money, but it's also easy to spend money. Because these disciplines are easy to do, most people think they're not important. They think, what difference will it make if I read for 30 minutes today? Or what difference will it make if I save $10 today? The answer is, it won't make much difference today, but it will make a huge difference over time. This is why most people fail. They underestimate the value of small, consistent actions. They're looking for the magic bullet, the quick fix, the overnight success. But there is no magic bullet. There is no quick fix. There is no overnight success. There are only daily disciplines that compound over time. The successful person understands that success is not about perfection, it's about consistency. You don't have to be perfect every day, you just have to be consistent most days. You don't have to make huge changes, you just have to make small improvements consistently. Let me share with you some of the key disciplines that separate successful people from unsuccessful people. First, successful people have the discipline of continuous learning. They read books, they attend seminars, they listen to educational programs. They understand that formal education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. The average person reads less than one book per year. The successful person reads at least one book per month. Over 10 years, that's the difference between reading 10 books and reading 120 books. Do you think that difference in knowledge might lead to a difference in results? Second, successful people have the discipline of taking care of their health. They eat well, they exercise regularly, they get enough sleep, they understand that their body is their most important asset, and they treat it accordingly. Third, successful people have the discipline of managing their finances. They spend less than they earn, they save money regularly, they invest wisely. They understand that financial independence is not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep and how well you manage it. Fourth, successful people have the discipline of building and maintaining relationships. They treat people well, they keep their commitments, they add value to others' lives. They understand that success is not a solo journey, it's a team sport. Fifth, successful people have the discipline of setting and pursuing goals. They know what they want, they write it down, they make plans, and they take action. They understand that a goal without a plan is just a wish. These disciplines are not complicated, they're not secrets, they're not difficult to understand, but they are difficult to practice consistently. That's why most people don't practice them. They choose the easy path in the short term, which leads to the difficult path in the long term. Here's what I've learned. You can choose the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The pain of discipline weighs ounces. The pain of regret weighs tons. Discipline is the price you pay for success. Regret is the price you pay for failure. The pain of discipline is the pain of getting up early when you'd rather sleep in. It's the pain of eating healthy food when you'd rather eat junk food. It's the pain of saving money when you'd rather spend it. It's the pain of studying when you'd rather watch television. The pain of regret is the pain of looking back on your life and wondering what could have been. It's the pain of missed opportunities, unfulfilled dreams, and unrealized potential. It's the pain of knowing you could have been more, done more, achieved more, but you chose the easy path instead. I want you to understand something. The disciplines of success are not burdens. They are freedoms. When you have the discipline to take care of your health, you have the freedom to enjoy life. When you have the discipline to manage your finances, you have the freedom to pursue your dreams. When you have the discipline to learn and grow, you have the freedom to create opportunities. The person who lacks discipline is not free. They are a slave to their circumstances, their emotions, their impulses. They are controlled by external forces instead of internal principles. They react to life instead of creating life. But the person who has discipline is free. They are in control of their thoughts, their actions, their results. They create their circumstances instead of being controlled by them. They are the author of their own story instead of a character in someone else's story. Part 4. Changing your philosophy and associations. Your philosophy is the set of beliefs that guide your decisions and actions. Your philosophy determines how you think about money, success, relationships, and life itself. And here's the key. Your philosophy shapes your life more than any other single factor. If you have a poor philosophy about money, you'll struggle financially no matter how much money you make. If you have a poor philosophy about success, you'll sabotage yourself every time you start to achieve something. If you have a poor philosophy about relationships, you'll struggle to build meaningful connections with others. The good news is that you can change your philosophy. You can choose to think differently about money, success, and life, but first, you have to examine your current philosophy and ask yourself, are these beliefs serving me or limiting me? Most people inherit their philosophy from their parents, their friends, their culture, or their circumstances. They never consciously choose their beliefs. They just accept whatever they grew up with. But here's the problem. If your parents were poor, you probably inherited a poor person's philosophy about money. If your friends are negative, you probably inherited a negative philosophy about life. I remember when I first learned about the power of changing your philosophy. I was working a job that barely paid the bills, and I was convinced that rich people were lucky or dishonest. I believed that money was the root of all evil. I believed that you had to work hard physically to make money. I believed that if you weren't born rich, you'd never become rich. Then I met my mentor, Earl Shoaff, and he challenged every one of my beliefs. He said, Jim, you're not poor because you don't have money. You're poor because you have a poor person's philosophy about money. He taught me that money is not the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. He taught me that money is simply a tool that can be used for good or evil depending on the person who has it. He taught me that wealthy people are not necessarily lucky or dishonest. Most wealthy people are hardworking, disciplined, and value-oriented. They provide products and services that improve people's lives. They create jobs and opportunities for others. They solve problems and meet needs. Most importantly, he taught me that anyone can become wealthy if they develop the right philosophy and take the right actions. Wealth is not reserved for a chosen few. It's available to anyone who is willing to pay the price in terms of learning, discipline, and consistent action. When I changed my philosophy about money, my financial situation began to change. Not immediately, but gradually. As I started thinking like a wealthy person, I started acting like a wealthy person. I started making decisions that wealthy people make. I started developing habits that wealthy people have. The same principle applies to success in any area of life. If you want to be successful, you have to develop a successful person's philosophy. You have to think like successful people think. You have to believe. Successful people believe that they can learn any skill they need to learn. Unsuccessful people believe that they're limited by their current abilities. Successful people believe that failure is feedback. Unsuccessful people believe that failure is final. Successful people believe that they are responsible for their results. Unsuccessful people believe that they are victims of their circumstances. But changing your philosophy is not enough. You also have to change your associations. You have to be careful about who you spend time with, because you become like the people you associate with. If you hang around negative people, you'll become negative. If you hang around positive people, you'll become positive. I learned this lesson the hard way. When I started working on my personal development, some of my old friends didn't understand. They thought I was trying to be better than them. They criticized my goals and made fun of my dreams. They tried to pull me back down to their level. I realized that I had to make a choice. I could stay with my old friends and remain at their level, or I could find new friends who would support my growth and challenge me to become better. It wasn't easy, But I chose to change my associations. I started spending time with people who were more successful than I was. I started reading books by successful people. I started listening to educational programs instead of mindless entertainment. I started attending seminars and workshops where I could learn from experts. This doesn't mean you have to abandon your old friends completely, but it does mean that you have to be selective about who you spend your time with and who you allow to influence your thinking. You have to protect your mind from negative influences and surround yourself with positive influences. Find mentors who have achieved what you want to achieve. Read books by people who have succeeded in your field. Listen to podcasts and audiobooks that will help you grow. Attend events where you can meet like-minded people who share your goals and values. Create a library of wisdom. Collect books, audiobooks, and educational materials that will help you develop the right philosophy and the right skills. Make learning a lifelong habit. Invest in your education more than you invest in anything else. Remember, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you want to improve your life, you have to improve the quality of the people you associate with. You have to raise your standards and associate with people who will challenge you to become better. Your philosophy and your associations will determine your destination. If you want to change your destination, you have to change your philosophy and your associations. You have to start thinking differently and associating with different people. This is not about being arrogant or thinking you're better than others. This is about being intentional about your growth and surrounding yourself with influences that will help you become the person you want to become. Part 5, taking action and creating your future. Now we come to the most important part of our conversation. Everything we've talked about means nothing if you don't take action. Knowledge without action is worthless. Understanding without implementation is useless. You can have all the right philosophies, all the right associations, all the right disciplines, but if you don't take action, nothing will change. The gap between knowing and doing is where most people fail. They know what they should do, but they don't do it. They understand the principles of success, but they don't apply them. They have good intentions, but they don't follow through with consistent action. Why do people fail to take action? Fear is the biggest reason. Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of criticism, fear of the unknown. People would rather stay in their comfort zone, even if that comfort zone is uncomfortable, than risk stepping into the unknown. But here's what I want you to understand. The things you're afraid of are not as scary as you think they are. Most of the time, fear is just false evidence appearing real. Fear is your mind's way of trying to protect you from potential danger. But most of the dangers you fear are imaginary. The fear of failure is particularly destructive. People are so afraid of failing that they never try. But failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of success. Every successful person has failed multiple times. The difference is that they didn't let failure stop them. They used failure as a learning experience and kept moving forward. I've failed many times in my life. I've had business ventures that didn't work out. I've made investments that lost money. I've had relationships that didn't last. But I don't consider these failures. I consider them education. Each failure taught me something valuable that I couldn't have learned any other way. The fear of success is just as destructive as the fear of failure. People are afraid that if they succeed, they'll have to maintain that success. They're afraid that success will change them or that other people will expect more from them. But success is not something to be afraid of. Success is something to be celebrated and shared. The fear of criticism is another common obstacle. People are afraid that if they try something new or different, others will criticize them. But here's the truth. You're going to be criticized no matter what you do. If you succeed, people will criticize you for being successful. If you fail, people will criticize you for failing. You might as well be criticized for trying than for not trying. The key to overcoming fear is to take action in spite of the fear. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is taking action despite the fear. The more you take action, the more your confidence grows. The more your confidence grows, the less fear you feel. Start where you are with what you have. You don't need perfect conditions to begin. You don't need more money, more time, more knowledge, or more resources. You have everything you need to start. You just need to start. Set clear, specific goals and write them down. A goal that is not written down is just a wish. When you write down your goals, you make them real. You give them power. You create accountability. Make your goals specific and measurable. Instead of saying, I want to be rich, say, I want to earn $100,000, 0 cents per year within the next 3 years. Instead of saying, I want to be healthy, say, I want to lose 20 pounds and run a 5K race within the next 6 months. Break your goals down into smaller, actionable steps. A goal without a plan is just a wish. Create a plan for achieving each goal. What specific actions do you need to take? What skills do you need to develop? What resources do you need to acquire? Take action every single day toward your goals. Success is not about taking massive action occasionally. It's about taking consistent action daily. Even if you can only take one small step each day, those small steps will add up to big results over time. Measure your progress and make adjustments as needed. Track your results and celebrate your victories, no matter how small. If something isn't working, don't be afraid to change your approach. Flexibility is key to long-term success. Stay focused on your goals, but don't become so rigid that you can't adapt to changing circumstances. The path to success is rarely a straight line. Be willing to adjust your strategy while staying committed to your ultimate destination. Find an accountability partner or mentor who will help you stay on track. Share your goals with someone who will support you and hold you accountable. Having someone to report to can make a huge difference in your consistency and motivation. Celebrate your progress along the way. Success is not just about reaching the final destination. It's about who you become along the journey. Celebrate the small wins, the progress you make, the skills you develop, and the person you're becoming. Remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to be willing to learn and grow. You don't have to be the best. You just have to be better than you were yesterday. The time for excuses is over. The time for waiting is over. The time for wishing and hoping is over. The time for action is now. Today is the day you make the decision that will change your life forever. Success starts with a single decision. The decision to take responsibility for your life. The decision to develop the disciplines of success. The decision to change your philosophy and associations. The decision to take action and create your future. That decision is yours to make. Nobody can make it for you. Nobody can force you to change. But nobody can stop you from changing either. The power is in your hands. The choice is yours. What are you going to decide? Are you going to continue living the same life you've been living, or are you going to decide to create something better? Are you going to keep making excuses, or are you going to start taking action? The life you want is waiting for you. The success you dream of is possible. The future you desire is within your reach. But it all starts with a single decision, the decision to change, the decision to grow, the decision to become the person you were meant to be. Make that decision today. Make it now. Make it with everything you've got. And then back up that decision with consistent, persistent action. Your future self will thank you for the decision you make today. Remember, success is not a destination, it's a journey. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. It's not about luck, it's about choice. And it all starts with a single decision. The question is not whether you can succeed, the question is whether you will decide to succeed. The answer to that question will determine everything else in your life. But let me tell you something else that's equally important. Once you make that decision, you have to protect it. You have to guard it like a treasure, because there will be forces trying to steal it from you. There will be people who will try to talk you out of your dreams. There will be circumstances that will test your resolve. There will be moments when you'll want to give up. This is where most people fail. They make a decision, but they don't protect it. They let other people's opinions influence them. They let temporary setbacks discourage them. They let fear creep back in and paralyze them. I want to share with you the story of a young man I met years ago. He came to one of my seminars with fire in his eyes and passion in his heart. He told me he was going to start his own business and become financially independent within 5 years. He had a plan, he had determination, and he had made a real decision. 6 months later, I saw him again. The fire was gone. The passion had dimmed. When I asked him about his business, he made excuses. His family didn't support him. His friends thought he was crazy. The market was tough. He didn't have enough money to get started. What happened to this young man? He made a decision, but he didn't protect it. He let other people's fears become his fears. He let other people's limitations become his limitations. He let other people's small thinking shrink his big dream. Don't let this happen to you. When you make a decision to change your life, you have to protect that decision with everything you've got. You have to build a wall around your dreams and not let anyone or anything tear them down. This means you have to be very careful about who you share your dreams with. Not everyone deserves to hear about your goals and aspirations. Some people will try to discourage you because they don't want you to succeed beyond their level. Some people will try to bring you down because your success makes them uncomfortable about their own lack of success. Share your dreams only with people who will support you and encourage you. Find people who believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself. Surround yourself with people who will challenge you to go higher instead of trying to pull you down to their level. Another way to protect your decision is to create systems and structures that support your goals. If you decide to get healthy, create a system that makes it easy to eat well and exercise regularly. If you decide to build wealth, create a system that automatically saves and invests your money. If you decide to learn new skills, create a system that schedules time for learning and development. Systems are more powerful than willpower. Willpower is limited and can be depleted. Systems are automatic and don't require constant decision making. When you create good systems, success becomes inevitable. Let me also talk to you about the importance of persistence. Success requires persistence. It requires the ability to keep going when things get tough. It requires the ability to bounce back from setbacks and failures. It requires the ability to maintain your enthusiasm even when progress seems slow. Most people give up too soon. They expect immediate results, and when they don't get them, they quit. They don't understand that success is a process, not an event. They don't understand that everything worthwhile takes time to develop. I've seen people give up just before their breakthrough. They worked hard for months or years, and then they quit just when they were about to succeed. They didn't realize that every failure, every setback, every obstacle was preparing them for their eventual success. Think about a farmer. When a farmer plants seeds, he doesn't expect to harvest the crop the next day. He understands that there's a season for planting, a season for nurturing, and a season for harvesting. He waters the seeds, pulls the weeds, and protects the crop from pests and weather. He does this consistently, day after day, season after season. Your success is like that crop. You plant the seeds through your decisions and actions. You nurture them through consistent effort and continuous learning. You protect them from the weeds of doubt and the pests of criticism. And eventually, if you're persistent, you'll harvest the crop of success. But here's what most people don't understand about persistence. True persistence is not about doing the same thing over and over again, hoping for different results. That's not persistence. That's insanity. True persistence is about staying committed to your goal while being flexible about your methods. If something isn't working, change your approach. If one strategy fails, try another strategy. If one path is blocked, find another path. But never give up on your destination. Never give up on your dreams. Never give up on yourself. I want to tell you about the power of compound interest, not just in money, but in all areas of life. Albert Einstein supposedly said that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it, earns it. He who doesn't, pays it. This principle applies to more than just money. It applies to knowledge, skills, relationships, and personal development. When you learn something new every day, that knowledge compounds over time. When you develop a skill consistently, that skill compounds over time. The key to benefiting from compound interest is to start early and be consistent. A small amount invested regularly over a long period of time will grow into a large amount. A small effort applied consistently over a long period of time will produce extraordinary results. This is why daily disciplines are so important. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. This is why you should focus on progress, not perfection. Small improvements made consistently over time will transform your life in ways you can't imagine. Let me share with you one more crucial principle. You must learn to manage your inner conversation. The conversation you have with yourself is more important than any conversation you have with anyone else. If you're constantly telling yourself that you can't succeed, that you're not good enough, that you don't have what it takes, then you're programming yourself for failure. Your subconscious mind believes whatever you tell it most often and most emotionally. If you tell it that you're a failure, it will find ways to make you fail. If you tell it that you're successful, it will find ways to make you successful. Start paying attention to your inner conversation. Notice what you say to yourself throughout the day. Are you encouraging yourself or discouraging yourself? Are you building yourself up or tearing yourself down? Are you focusing on possibilities or problems? Change your inner conversation and you'll change your life. Instead of saying, I can't do this, say, I'm learning how to do this. Instead of saying, I'm not good enough, say, I'm getting better every day. Instead of saying, this is too hard, say, this is challenging, but I can handle it. Your words have power. Your thoughts have power. Your beliefs have power. Use that power to build yourself up instead of tearing yourself down. Use that power to create the life you want instead of the life you fear. Remember, success is not about being perfect. Success is about being persistent. Success is about learning from your mistakes and getting better over time. Success is about staying committed to your goals, even when the path gets difficult. Every successful person has faced obstacles. Every successful person has made mistakes. Every successful person has had moments of doubt and fear. The difference is that they didn't let these things stop them. They used these experiences to become stronger, wiser, and more determined. You have that same power within you. You have the power to overcome any obstacle. You have the power to learn from any mistake. You have the power to push through any fear. You have the power to create the life you want. The only question is whether you'll use that power or waste it. The only question is whether you'll make the decision to succeed and then protect that decision with everything you've got. The only question is whether you'll take action today or continue making excuses. Your life is waiting for you to decide. Your dreams are waiting for you to pursue them. Your future is waiting for you to create it. The time is now. The place is here. The person is you. Make the decision, protect the decision, take action on the decision, and watch as your life transforms in ways you never thought possible. But let me leave you with one final thought that will tie everything together. Success is not just about what you achieve. Success is about who you become in the process of achieving it. The person you must become to achieve your goals is more valuable than the goals themselves. When you commit to success, you commit to growth. You commit to becoming better than you are today. You commit to developing new skills, new habits, new ways of thinking. You commit to pushing past your comfort zone and expanding your capabilities. This journey of becoming is what makes success so rewarding. It's not just about the money you'll earn or the recognition you'll receive. It's about the confidence you'll develop, the character you'll build, the strength you'll discover within yourself. I've watched thousands of people transform their lives, and I can tell you that the most successful ones are not necessarily the smartest or the most talented. They're the ones who are committed to continuous improvement. They're the ones who understand that success is an ongoing process, not a final destination. Every day you have the opportunity to become a better version of yourself. Every day you have the choice to take one more step toward your goals. Every day you have the chance to make decisions that will compound into extraordinary results. The beautiful thing about this process is that once you start, it becomes easier. Once you develop the habit of making good decisions becomes automatic. Once you develop the discipline of consistent action, taking action becomes natural. Once you develop the mindset of success, thinking like a successful person becomes second nature. This is why the first decision is so crucial. This is why today matters so much. This is why you can't afford to wait any longer. Every day you delay is a day of potential growth lost forever. Every day you postpone your decision is a day of compound interest working against you instead of for you. But every day you move forward is a day of progress. Every day you take action is a day of building momentum. Every day you stay committed to your goals is a day of creating the life you deserve. Your past does not determine your future. Your current circumstances do not define your potential. Your background does not dictate your destiny. The only thing that matters is what you decide to do from this moment forward. You have everything within you that you need to succeed. You have the intelligence, the creativity, the determination, and the power to create an extraordinary life. The only question is whether you'll use these gifts or let them go to waste. The world needs what you have to offer. The world needs your unique talents, your special gifts, your particular combination of skills and experiences. But you'll never be able to share these gifts with the world until you first decide to develop them fully. So what's it going to be? What are you going to decide? Your future is waiting for your answer.